So the other day, a prospect asked you, and you were telling me about it, if they signed up for the Full Time and Letter, would they get a bespoke training program from you? And the conversation that followed was quite interesting. But tell me what you said to him first.
The short answer to that question, I won't tell you what I said to him because it's a privileged conversation. But the short answer to the question is no, there are no bespoke programs in the sense that most people believe that they might get one or their understanding of what bespoke program is. The longer and more interesting answer is that I send out material that is appropriate for the people who meet the criteria to actually subscribe to the Full Time and Letter, which are all very clearly articulated in both the sales page and the terms and conditions page subsequent to that.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we work together to tweak and modify to make it work for their specific circumstances, training history, that sort of thing. But the idea is that they at least try and do that themselves first. You know, I will answer any question at any time, provided that I'm not having the same question asked me over and over again. I don't take kindly to that, but I will answer any question at any time. But really, what I want from my subscribers is to actually, apply critical thinking to what I'm giving them, so they actually learn how to train themselves for. Because truthfully, that's the only way to get and sustain results in the long term. So the problem with bespoke programs as they're typically understood is it's the old analogy of giving someone a fish and they'll eat for a day, and you give them a rod, they'll eat for a lifetime. It's exactly that. That's the problem with the way most PTs operate, is they give people what they want, not what they need, and what people want is not to think. They want it all given to them in a neat little package. Well, if you just do this in this specific way, then you will get the desired outcome. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And while it's true that in many cases the client will get something approximating the outcome they want, the moment they stop working with a PT, they don't actually have the tools they need to build upon what they've gained. So you end up with this really nasty dependent relationship between the professional and the client. Now, I want a dependent relationship as well. I'm in business to make money, for goodness sake, and we need to retain our clients for as long as possible. I'm quite down on the dependent relationship thing, but there's a difference between a healthy dependent relationship where you are meeting your goals and then getting more information from the professional to pursue the next goal and the next goal, and becoming progressively more independent, versus the whole vicious cycle of PT that I've talked about before, where person gets fat, decides they want to lose weight, hires Dave down the gym puts them through a workout program, they lose a bit of weight, they stop working with Dave down the gym, and they put all the weight back on again because they don't know how to continue training by themselves, and then they get fat again, they're like, oh, I need to do something about this. I remember Dave down the gym was really good, I worked with him. And that's how, when PTs say their clients keep coming back to them, that's usually what they mean.
Yeah. Boomerang.
Almost, yeah, it's boomeranging back to them. Or it's, they're not coming back because, oh, I've lost my weight and now I want to build bigger shoulders. It's, I've lost weight and I've put it all back on again because Dave isn't spoon feeding me everything. And usually the problem is Dave down the gym and most online coaches are too thick to actually, they're too thick and they lack the life experience to actually provide information that will allow people to facilitate their own progress.
Yeah, we were having this conversation in the car, and we got onto the idea of special snowflake syndrome, didn't we? And how people believe that they need the right program, and when they find the right program, they get the results. But you said the answer is they probably just haven't stuck at anything.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this whole idea of a magic bullet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most people in my space sell magic bullets. They will claim they're not selling magic bullets. They'll get quite offended when you suggest that they're selling magic bullets. But they are selling magic bullets. If they have a specific method that they are pushing, and they're claiming it guarantees or near guarantees a specific outcome, then they're almost certainly selling a magic bullet.
Yeah.
And yes, it probably does. What they're selling probably does produce the result to some degree, as I mentioned a moment ago. But it won't equip people to sustain that progress that they've made, and then obviously continue to build upon the progress that they've made. the other thing you say about special snowflake syndrome too is people think that they need very basically get to quote a guy I was talking to recently, they get stuck down in the weeds, they get focused in on minutia, and that's kind of the nature of these bespoke programs, is they're very details orientated rather than process and strategy orientated. I've gone like I don't I don't exaggerate by saying I've gone years at various points without actually training with a specific program, only training with a set of specific principles, namely building everything around the seven core movements that I discuss in Lift, and barbell based strength training being the center, barbell based strength training on those seven core movement patterns being the core of my training, and then other stuff to supplement that. I've not actually logged or tracked or anything like that for years at a time, and it's done me no harm whatsoever. I've continued to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
Probably not as fast as I could have done, but I'm sorry, I defy anyone who's not a professional athlete to jump from difficult, tough 8 or 12 week program to difficult or tough 8 or 12 week program. I don't think it works like that long term. For the average guy who's working, like I was working shifts and stuff for the majority of that time. There was no way I could have stuck to a conventional, quote unquote, conventional training approach, one of these magic bullets or anything like that. Because when you're working a run of 5 night shifts, then you've got 2 days off, and then you're on an early shift. Like you you can't follow these sorts of programs. You need something much more flexible and sustainable. You need a strategy and principles first approach, which is obviously what I teach, which is why it's so damn effective, because people have the tools that they need, and they're like, yeah, I've got a clear 12 weeks, work pressure's down, yada yada yada. Okay, I'm gonna really go hard on this for 12 weeks and really track my progress, really shoot for a very specific goal, which my methods are conducive to. And then also when they're really busy and they're stressed or they go on holiday or whatever, they've got stuff for that too.
Yeah.
Where they can just chill out and largely maintain most of what they've gained, whilst perhaps pushing one or two very specific things ever so slightly. That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And the other part of what we were talking about is most things will give you some results if you do them for long enough. And I know there's ups and downs in life, but it's the discipline that keeps you going.
Oh yeah, everything that's not retarded will give you results if you just keep doing it. I remember reading, I wish I came up with this, but I didn't. I don't know who wrote it first. I remember reading someone saying that the contrasting kids, do you know what? I don't even think it was like a strength coach or anything. I think this was some sort of an anonymous person on the forum. But basically contrasting people who were really focused on, who loved Mark Ripeto's starting strength.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a cult in, particularly in the novice strength training world. It's everyone just do starting strength or strongless 5x5, one of those two. And someone on this forum quite astutely pointed out that the lads in the gym doing some stupid program they read in Muscle and Fitness or something, that people laugh at because they're just almost caricatures of what bodybuilding training looks like. Some of these programs, and and they've got obvious gaps in them, and there's no. It's very difficult to make kind of progress in terms of weight and all this other stuff. But they say that someone who loves what they do and they just hammer away at these muscle and fitness programs, they seem to do better than all of these basement dwellers on this forum debating the intricacies of the back squat or starting strength, because they're not actually enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they don't kind of stick at it, and they don't do it with discipline and intent. And then they just fall off the wagon because they were never particularly enthralled by what they were doing. Don't get me wrong, starting strength and strongest 5x5 are bloody good programs. You should absolutely check them out as a novice, as a total novice. If you're not going to look at my stuff. But yeah, you have to actually really want to do that stuff. Yeah. And as I say, and this is more in the context, it was a student forum, so we're talking kind of lads who are 17, 18, 19 and 20. You just want to get into great shape for Ibiza in the summer or whatever normies would do at that age, because I didn't do any of that stuff. And for them, the muscle and fitness specials actually produced better results because they were working hard at them and stuck at them for 6 months or so.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the the curve that we've talked about before of how hard things appear to be and versus enjoyment. And thing the any program can be fun to start with the novelty and then get hard, but you push through long enough and it just becomes kind of a non-issue, doesn't it? Like walking for us, I certainly remember I pushed back quite hard with the daily walking, and then I enjoyed it for a little while, and then it got hard, and now it's just a non-issue, right?
Well, you just do it. Yeah. It's picking something and sticking to it. And again, this is another reason why overly rigid programs, where they're particularly kind of like really percentage based stuff.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for the long term, because it's impossible to maintain the level of intellectual intensity of calculating every set, every single set needs calculating. You need to log how many plates you're using on the bloody lap pull down machine, all that kind of stuff. The key is learning what you need to focus on and what you don't. So to give a good example, we track our main compound lifts, so squat, press, bench, deadlift. Those we track and monitor because they're important. What I don't give a toss about are things like what we're using on machines, like pull downs, or even like barbell rows. Even doesn't matter. For that sort of stuff. You just shoot for a total number of reps you're gonna hit in the workout, and just hit that target in as many or as few sets as you feel inclined to do that particular day. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And imagine, because essentially what that enables you to do is pour all of your attention on the stuff that's going to make you the most progress, which your barbell pressing lifts and your squatting and your deadlifting. That's going to be responsible for most of your muscle and strength gains. And then all the other bits and bobs, curls, push downs, abs, even back, like rows, just smash volume out. Yeah. Lightish weight, done with good control and focus for 50 to 100 total reps per workout, and your bobs, your uncle fannies, your aunt happy days.
And whilst we're on the topic of tracking, I know they're really popular, especially with people who take their health and fitness seriously, but fitness wearables.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I saw an advert for one yesterday that was Know the Real You.
We get ads for the same device. You get I know exactly the one you're talking about. We both get ads for the same device. Yeah. You get the lady ads and I get the man ads.
Yeah.
And I hate them. I think they're stupid, and I actually sincerely believe that they precipitate mental health disorder, eating disorder and kind of exercise obsession based disorders, because it's not right to track stuff at that level, and not only that, but a lot of the information in them, it's all just isolated data points. It's not. Does it? Why do you honestly need a computer to tell you didn't get a good night's sleep? Well, what it allows people to do, right? It's the same. It allows people to feel busy, and it enables them to conflate activity with achievement. Yeah. And it just shows how pathetic most adults are, and they need everything gamifying as well, because you get like a lot of these apps will give you like achievements and badges and all that sort of stuff. Like, grow up.
Our 3-year-old.
Like, literally grow up. Like, to track our workouts, I use the Notes app on my phone, and you use a book.
Yeah.
Pen and paper. That's it. You don't need anything more than that. Like, it just boggles me why people would do these things. It boggles me. Have you seen that blood sugar monitor thing as well?
Yeah.
Where we've got non-diabetic people having blood glucose monitoring.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy the other day who paid for one for the trial and took all the initial testing, and he was like, I'm not eating this thing and that thing anymore. And it was interesting. The conclusions he came to were pretty much, I'm not eating processed food. I was like, I could have told you that without a 500 quid glucose monitor.
I read an opinion piece from a GP, basically just inflating them, saying that it's going to cause eating disorders in people, in susceptible individuals. It's not hard. I'm sorry, anyone with a triple-digit IQ knows what they ought and ought not to be eating, and to claim otherwise, just taking the piss. I'm sorry. I know we're talking about diet, and I'm not a diet guy. And well, now you're going to find out why I'm not a diet guy. because I just think it's stupid. I just think that this obsessing over food, like healthy eating is not complicated. That card does not wash with me. You know what you should and you shouldn't be eating. You know how much you should and shouldn't be eating. It's not hard to not eat like a pig. Well, it is hard to not eat like a pig because we live in an environment that is susceptible to making you eat like a pig because of the advertising, food advertising. Actually, the foods themselves are engineered for maximum palatability and addictiveness. So it is hard, but you still know you shouldn't be eating it, and you also probably know, or at least you could certainly figure out with a little bit of time and attention, how to adjust your lifestyle to make it easier to make better choices.
I think the major issue is that it completely takes away people's ability and responsibility for making their own choices.
Well, they don't want it, because then when they stay fat, and they can blame the app. That's another thing. They blame the app. Oh, it's the app's fault. I'm fat. Oh, I did everything the app said, and I'm still fat. Oh, so obviously I can't lose weight. Bollocks. Sorry.
Well, this morning I had a 3-mile run in my program. I ran 100 meters and listened to my body and went, "Oh, that hurts. That feels crap. Not doing that. I'll do that tomorrow."
Yeah.
And
well, that's a really important point, actually. These wearables too, you become so fixated on what the wearable is telling you, you stop listening to the actual biological signals from your body. And I can see, I'm not saying it does for legal reasons, but I can see how that could precipitate injury, for example. Because if you're running, like you say this morning, and your foot hurts, how the hell does the app know your foot hurts? Doesn't know your foot hurts. But the app says that you're in your optimum heart rate zone or some other such nonsense. And you're like, oh, well, I'm in my... And it says that you're well rested because apparently your sleep score is great. So you push forward and then you end up with a ruptured Achilles.
I think more likely it will precipitate people doing less.
Well, no, but I'm less interested in the people who are more inclined to do less, because they're never going to buy my stuff, and ultimately that's why we're talking. I don't give a toss about those people. I'm more interested in people who are serious about getting into shape, who might use one of these pieces of equipment, and that the equipment's telling them you're doing great, and then they ignore, as I say, a hurty foot whilst running, push through, and as I say, pop goes the Achilles, and you're laid up for 3 months. That's not good. As I say, Jess, I don't give it. Just to reiterate, I really don't give a toss about people who use them to be lazy.
Yeah.
I just don't care, because I can't help those people until they change their attitude, and I can't change people's attitudes.
Yeah. The other thing that I know from experience is when they break or die, or you don't wear them, that causes a whole load of distress.
Yeah. I probably said this before, but there was that girl who her weighing scales. She used to carry weighing scales with her everywhere because she would weigh all of her food, and she actually started crying because she couldn't weigh out the amount of protein bar she was going to eat.
Do you remember how frustrated I was when I had Marcus, because my step tracker didn't count when I was pushing the pram, because it required the swing of my wrist to count my steps.
Oh yeah, and then there was when you were trying to claim you were doing loads of exercise because you were doing loads of steps, and yet you were still getting like fatter. And I was like, yeah, because you're not pottering around the house isn't exercise, Jess.
It also counted knitting.
Oh, it counted knitting as well, did it? You never told me that. Yeah, no, they do allow you to do all of these things, but I'd say my main concern with them actually is that well-meaning people who work hard might actually end up hurting themselves because of the app telling them that this is a good day, you're doing well. They're obviously going to be, people are going to use them as smoke screens for their laziness. That's a given. Never underestimate a fat person's ability to lie to themselves.
And the calorie apps as well that set you a target for the day, and you don't listen to your hunger and your repair needs.
Again, we don't talk about diet. I don't care about diet. We know what we should be eating. Everyone knows what they should be eating. Everyone knows when they're eating like a pig deep down, if they're actually honest, unless they've got some sort of eating disorder, like a mental illness eating disorder, like anorexia, in which case they shouldn't be fucking listening to fitness podcasts. They should be seeking appropriately qualified medical advice. That's something that scares me, actually, when you see PTs and stuff doing calories and doing diet, because full disclosure, diet nutrition was covered on my 4-week, I think it was, PT course, and it was about 2 sessions, And the what I was taught, and I believe this is what's taught on most PT curricula, is that the only advice I'm qualified to give is that's completely in line with the government Eat Well plate guidance. That's it. I can parrot government guidance, that's it as a PT, and that's all PTs should be doing. So when you're seeing PTs pushing things like keto and stuff like that, which are not the government's Eat Well guidance, they are ferreting with things they do not understand. Unless they've got other qualifications like degrees in nutrition or stuff like that. But even then, shouldn't be writing meal plans, shouldn't be prescribing calories or anything like that, because that's the purview of a registered dietitian. And incidentally, registered dietitians use tools like that quite sparingly. From my research, they prescriptive meal
Eat this,
plans.
don't eat
Eat
anything else.
this, eat that. Yeah, because that's the thing. They say, people said to me, "Oh, Phil, what's harmful in telling people to eat some chicken, rice, and broccoli?" It's like, well, yeah, but by telling them to eat chicken, rice, and broccoli, you're also telling them what not to eat, and that's the problem. And yeah, they typically will only prescribe meal plans in very specific circumstances. Like, just to give an example off the top of my head, people who are preparing for bariatric surgery,
Yes.
who have to, that would be a circumstance where a dietitian might give a prescribed meal plan for someone to follow. But generally, they're all about what we do with fitness. Actually, funny that, equipping people, helping them, facilitating better decisions, giving them the strategies, tactics they need to actually take ownership of this stuff themselves. Because that's the thing with a meal plan. Meal plan takes away your agency.
Yeah.
And again, we're back to what we started talking about.
Yeah,
So as soon as you stop following the plan, you're going to lose all your results, because you are completely useless without the plan. And you cannot follow these plans indefinitely. It's not possible nor healthy.
I'd say that failure often starts well before the plan ends, though, because when you get a really tough day or an injury, how do you make the plan fit? It's do it or don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've written extensively on calories specifically, and why the way calories as a tool in diet are useful. I'm not saying they're not useful. No one can accuse me of that. But how they are typically used by most people is it's almost pseudoscientific, the way that they use them. And I've written an article on my site called The Great Calorie Con. If you want to read that, I'll save time explaining it now.
Because you and I quite like when we go to a restaurant and see calories on the menu, because it's obviously we don't know the size of the plate, the size of the portion, and so it's an interesting.
Yeah, it's a heuristic. It's a
Yeah.
heuristic. So it's a little mental rule that helps us make better choices. So heuristics are actually like a cognitive bias, but they enable you to make quick decisions that are right most of the time when you employ them correctly in most circumstances. So one of the heuristics we have for restaurants, or I have, I know what Jess does, I don't really care, is if I won't have any single food item on a menu that's got more than 1,200 calories in it. It's really arbitrary. There's nothing. That's completely arbitrary selection that I've made there. It's just based on my experience and what works for me. I'm not advocating anyone follow that as advice. I'm just saying that for me, I've found over the years that I'm being a pig if there's more than 1,200 calories in any one course.
It's a helpful guide to eat like a grown-up.
That's not to say that I can't eat I can't have 3 courses. I just won't have that are greater than 1,200 calories. I just won't have one one course that's more than 1,200, because that to me is piggy. In my experience, based on my training background, the training I'm doing right now, blah 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 blah. That's kind of where the line is, and it works really well. And sometimes, as heuristics, so it's not perfect for use on every occasion, but it does me well enough when I go out, so I don't stress about going out and eating, because I know that I'm not going to do myself too much damage with this particular dietary dalliance.
I don't think we've ever looked at calories on the back of a packet in the supermarket.
No, I do as a curiosity. I do it as a curiosity, but it's curiosity. It's nothing more than that. I don't weigh my food. I don't track calories. I never have. I toyed with the idea for about a week when I was 20, and I thought, this is really stupid.
Well, I did it, and I replaced Rice Krispie squares with apples with Rice Krispie squares, because they had about the same calories, didn't I?
Oh yeah, that's a classic thing people do. No, I did it for about a week when I was 20. Literally a week when I was 20, and I just looked, and then I was like, this is really stupid. and then never did it again.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Cool.